Are you asking the question, where's my stuff, too often? Whether it's in your own warehouses, from your suppliers, or in your customer network, if you're not sure where your stuff is, then Surge Air has the solution for you. With Surge Air's 99.9% accuracy, you're getting more than just supply chain visibility. You're getting the ability to orchestrate your supply chain and guide decisions in real time. Reduce the chaos in your supply chain and find operational truth with Surge Air. Find your visibility and learn more at surgeair.com. That's surgeair.com.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And in today's episode, I am going to be joined by Peter Coratola, and he is the founder and CEO at Ease Logistics. And we've had Mike from Ease Logistics on before, but now we're going to have the CEO, the big guy at Ease Logistics, come on here. We're going to hear a little bit about his story, how Ease kind of was founded and how he started the company. And we're also going to talk about a really interesting project that they recently announced and are working on, piloting some autonomous trucks in their area. So very interested to dig into that and learn all about the Ease story as well. So Peter, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be on the show. Appreciate you having me. Excited to talk about Ease and some innovation for over-the-road trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to get you on and definitely interested to hear more about this. And so I guess before we get into that side of things, like tell us a little bit first about Ease for people that are not familiar, what it is you all do, but tell us too kind of the story, how you ended up founding the company and where did this all come from?
Sure. So Ease, we're based just outside Columbus, Ohio. Dublin, Ohio is our main headquarters. Our warehouses are up in Marysville, Ohio, and East Liberty. So we're an asset-based third-party logistics company. Recently, when I say recently, I would say over the last 5 to 6 years. When I started the company, almost about 12 years ago, I just had my firstborn son. I just got a puppy. Then I thought I might as well start a logistics company as well because I don't have enough challenges right now.
Yeah.
You know,
you're just all about new things in that
all
moment,
about
right?
new.
Yeah.
Very innovative. And when starting Ease, the focus really was, I saw some areas in the industry where I felt like just turning the knob a little bit, communication, 24/7, visibility, just a few clicks really can start to separate yourself. And it really kind of shows through the name of the company to tell you that had a massive business plan at that part, saying it's going to be Ease because of all these things. I'd be lying to you. Right. Really, it was when I started the company, it was originally going to be called Midwest Loyal. And then right before we went to sign the paperwork, our legal counselor, Danny, the lawyer, was kind of, well, what if it grows bigger? Do you want a bigger name? It's kind of a little late to the game to have any feedback, but I appreciate it. So, but from that, a couple Google searches later and trying to find a 4-letter name, right? We landed on Ease, and little did I know it would really resemble and reflect the goals here at Ease Logistics, right? Being the easiest company to do logistics with continues to be our focus, but also elevating that user experience, making unique, positive experience just through the simplest engagements, but really focusing on every engagement being a positive experience, right? We started servicing line production automotive right off the rip. So I'm sure, either a lot, but you know something about it, and you know that's not the easiest type of transportation. There's a lot on the line. It demands excellence. It demands perfection 24/7, right? You got to have 100% compliance. You got to be able to do the same things you do at 2 in the afternoon, at 2 in the morning. You got to know where things are at all the time. And you also have to make sure that the carriers and internal teams also reflect and follow those expectations at all times, right? So when you start servicing an industry that has such high expectations, again, little did I know we were building a foundation of creating a service model that, you know, come to find out was going to almost sell itself through customer referrals and getting us into adjacent industries, but completely different industries when we just hyper focused on this service model that we were creating, and you know, really starting around 2-minute response times, 15-minute intervals, and kind of how we really focused on the user experience.
Interesting. Yeah. And I think that's such a great perspective and a great way to kind of lay the foundation, right? It's just going by like service first, right? And making sure, like, how do we, like you said, like, you know, it seemed like it was kind of identifiable to you that, like, hey, a lot of people that were in the same kind of space were not really providing the best service, right? And you said, you know, just crank it a couple notches up, and we could be a differentiator here and have a differentiator. So I love that, and speaks volumes, obviously, to, you know, if you're getting those referrals from customers and getting some growth through that as well. So very interesting to kind of hear about how that kind of came together, and incredibly interesting that you had a child, got a puppy, and started a company in the same year. You're a brave man, I'll say, definitely. But so really interesting there. So now tell us a little bit about, you know, as you started the company and as you've grown it, how have you kind of approached innovation, and how, as you've grown as well, how have you kind of instilled that into your team to think in innovative ways to be able to service your customer?
So it kind of goes back to going back off service. I don't make a stand saying that all of Ease's trucks always show up on time and the competition doesn't, right? We're all subject to the same challenges. How I've always looked at innovation, and I was troubled and challenged, I would say, maybe like, I don't want to say how most to generalize, but how I think there's a perception out there where innovation is always directly tied to technology or like large investments in technology. And how we look at innovation here is, how can we elevate any X experience, right? Just saying 2-minute response time and getting everyone to buy in, and saying, you know, from the largest customers to the mid-market to the SMBs, there's one consistent positive feedback that we have when we go in these meetings is your response time is incredible, right? And just making communication as one of our pillars of like customer success, right? For us, that was innovative, right? Is it possible at all times to answer within 2 minutes? You know, realistically, I know it's not, right? When I get asked why 2 minutes, typically my answer was because 1 minute was ridiculous. You know,
good answer.
But we look at innovation of, you know, where can you find these crossroads of engagement, be it customer, carrier, vendor, and elevate it, right? Is it through technology? Is it through how you communicate? Is it through how they engage with you, right? And then we expand on that. So innovation for us is, how do we increase, you know, the experience, while also never putting technology between us and the customers that give us opportunities, the carriers that give us the ability to do what we do, right? The vendors that give us the resources to run warehouses and technology to operate in.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point there. What you said in the beginning is that, you know, innovation isn't always this like investment in technology, right? It's just thinking about something in a different way. Like somebody, I was talking about this with somebody like a month or so ago, and they said, like, you know, taking like a roll of tape and putting it on a tape gun, that was innovative, right? Like It doesn't necessarily have to be like the highest technology that's out there right now, or all these different things. Yeah.
Right. And I feel like it's also how you control again, I keep using the word experience, but I came across something today about Apple a decade ago when they came out with the iPad or iPod, and it was, competitors had similar devices, but they all said 256 megabits or, and Apple's was just at 1,000 songs in your pocket, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like kind of also, how do you make it digestible for that other user to understand what you're doing, but also have that kind of attraction and that appeal, right? Where it's a good experience, but again, we use the same type of forklifts in the warehouses as same trucks on the road, right? It's just when you put it all together, how do you use innovation to just deliver a better X, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great way to look at it and think about it. So, when you look at maybe the other side of innovation, right? Where you said like a lot of times people's mind goes to like the latest technology and things like that. And you guys have, trucking operations, you have warehousing operations. So how are you viewing kind of automation and robotics in the industry? Like what is your view on that? Is that something like you're looking to embrace, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely looking to embrace, right? Again, we're a people-led, technology-enabled company. So when we look at technologies for automation, especially when you start getting on the asset side, it's how do you increase safety, right? How do you increase output, efficiency? But to put that removing people from the equation, it's not in any of our top 100 goals, right? It's not even in the list of goals for us. We see it as a way to, similar to on our logistics side, right? I say 2-minute response time to satisfy the customer. Why I like doing it and why we like 15-minute intervals, because it gives us the ability to control our workloads and our workflows. So when you add some layers of automation, you start to get back in control of the tasks that you need to do rather than tasks that are just put on you, right? Seemingly out of nowhere, but they're important because they're super important to somebody else.
Right.
So automation for us is slowly creeping into our asset. In the warehouse, obviously we have some autonomous platooning trucks on the road. And again, how we've adopted that is, for one, getting buy-in at the high volume users and the super users, right? You need truck drivers regardless. You need truck drivers without autonomous platooning technology. You need them with autonomous platooning technology right now, to see the efficiencies and the challenges inside your warehouse with forklifts or rack layouts. You need people to help you understand the flow of how things are picked and the intricate challenges of why one SKU is different than this. So we cautiously approach the mass deployment of automation. Again, a lot of our focus is how do we automate and viciously attack the redundant tasks behind the ease individual to make them more efficient.
Gotcha. Interesting. And I like that approach definitely. And like how to just make, that person more powerful at their job basically and do more and feel more accomplished too at the end of the day. So you kind of mentioned there this autonomous truck platooning pilot that you guys are doing. I guess first, what is platooning? What is that?
Right. I also learned that word in the last couple of years. Yeah. All right. It's not a boat. So autonomous platooning is where the two vehicles are going same route, and the second truck can get in front of the lead truck, and technology allows that second truck to come up close, turn on the technology, and autonomously platoon or drive following that lead truck. All right. So in my opinion, one of the most impactful technologies when we start talking about automation and autonomy in trucks, right? And a full deployment, which we're not there yet, right? The goal would be that second driver could go on a DOT reset, or you have team drivers in the front, right? So that allows us to now, especially being in Columbus, where we're within 1 day's transit of 60% of the population. Now we can expand that circle, right? But we can also service it with 2 truckloads. So Columbus to Jacksonville, now you can get there in 28, 30 hours with 2 trucks, right? team drivers, but before it would have been one trailer.
Interesting. So now tell us a little bit about, because you're piloting this technology right now. So tell us a little bit about kind of how did you, I guess, maybe come upon the idea of this solution, and how did you essentially say, like, okay, like this is a viable technology that we want to try out?
Working with the state of Ohio, they had a grant out there for autonomous vehicles. A lot of the autonomous platooning testing they were looking at were really for passenger vehicles. And when we got involved with it, we really made a push to look at how we could do it for over-the-road CDL, commercial, for cargo. So we partnered with ODOT, the state of Ohio, companies like Kratos and Bosch, that really, it's their technology. We're the fortunate ones that are able to test it. Mm-hmm. But again, why I was super attracted to it was for the use case I just gave. In my opinion, I think that we're very far away from going full autonomous. And I think even in that timeline, fully autonomous trucks will be for very specific use cases, right? And when you start to now adopt this autonomous platooning technology, so you still have drivers in the cab, you actually elevate the driver's safety, you elevate what they can do inside the cab, and now you can move more cargo further, right? To me, if ease was able to get involved with these technologies that are all around us, it was the most attractive one to me because I feel like it has the biggest impact.
Yeah. Interesting. And it's very interesting, the use case, because I was not familiar with the idea of platooning before, right? I mean, I knew about the boats, as you said, but not around the trucks like this. So that's very interesting. So tell us a little bit about kind of like, how does that work from a technology perspective? You kind of said, the trucks get behind each other. So are they moving, or are they attached in any way? Like how does that work?
It's very interesting. And I will tell you, this project was actually the first time I would say I ever was worked with, let alone in a room with like full blown, very ridiculously smart engineers. Mm-hmm. Right. And I will tell you that we have completely different personality types. They are concise, got to know the plan right, and then you bring in maybe dreamers, let's say, like me, asking questions there, and you kind of really definitely throw some curveballs in, right? Yeah. But so the process is, when they were talking to us about the technology and learning about it, which I learned again, and I put that out there, is because to this day I can't tell you the exact technology inside the trucks. I know, Kratos gives us the technology to make it happen. And what happens is when the trucks are within a certain amount of distance in approved areas, the first truck sends a signal, the second one, they both agree to it, right? And then as long as they're moving, right, and the second one's behind it, you activate the technology, and the second truck just goes fully autonomous. The steering wheel, the pedals, everything is essentially following what the lead truck is doing, right? To make that happen, they have to be within a certain amount of distance, right? And they measure that distance while traveling about by seconds, right? So technically, the technology can work with the follow truck 15 seconds behind the lead truck, right?
Okay.
Now that seems like a little bit of time, a lot of bit of time, but to put it into relative circumstance, when you're on the highway going 65 mile an hour, 15 seconds is pretty far, right? So the technology starts to talk to each other when they're within 15 seconds, but it doesn't let you activate it until they're within 2 to 3 seconds, right? So it's and the reason they do that is because we have to start to eliminate as many variables that are out of our hands out there, right? And what they got to after a lot of testing was, at that 2 to 3 seconds, cars are not willing to risk trying to come in between, right?
Okay, I see what you mean. Yeah.
Right. So even if a car would come in, hypothetically, it would not break the connection, right?
Yeah.
And if the first truck does something, right, the second truck doesn't automatically follow what the first truck does. So the first truck has to make an evasive move. It doesn't automatically do it as well. It's second truck's first reaction is slow down, stop, check both sides, and see if I can go left to right or right. So all that testing, and our drivers went down the Ford and tested for months on closed tracks to figure out what's that right amount of time, right, where the drivers feel comfortable, because another thing is you have to remember inside the driver's mind, you break everything a driver is taught and what they learn when you tell a truck to go 2 seconds behind another vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, from the outside looking in, it looks every bit of like a freaking Evel Knievel stunt when you're going down the highway.
Yeah.
You know, it's 2 seconds is close,
Yeah.
right? But that we came to that conclusion with all the testing to figure out how do we eliminate all these variables to let the driver feel safe, still feel like if they have to take control, they can, but it gives them the ability to build confidence in the technology.
Interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting to hear. And I'm curious for you, right, as a leader here. I mean, you know, obviously, you know, you're doing this pilot, and you know, so from the technology company's perspective, the provider, right, you know, it's valuable to them to have someone actually testing this and getting kind of that knowledge. But I'm curious for you, from, you know, someone that's leading this company, like, how do you look at something like this that, you know, it could be potentially effective, or as new technologies are, you know, maybe doesn't necessarily get the results expected in the long term? I mean, how do you weigh, like, you know, going about trying something like that and putting the resources towards, you know, helping to develop?
That's a good question, and it's a hard decision to commit to innovation, right? Because it takes time. The return is lackluster at best, right? And it's the variable continue. It seems to change, right? At what we thought was going to be one of the pickups or the positive gains from like an efficiency standpoint of two trucks driving together from like gas utilization, and just, right, came to be like one of the least top positive things, right? You know, so like you commit to innovation, and it's hard because everyone talks about it and everyone wants to be innovative, right? But it's, once you get in there, you find out it's time consuming. You need resources, and to do it well, you got to have good use cases, right? You know, ease has always been committed to how do we innovate X, right? So we're very proud to be helping pioneer this technology, and we feel like, you know, being able to be on the front lines of getting this technology, getting community exposure to it, working with legislation and police about, you know, how can these trucks run safely and everybody be on the same page. It challenges us, but it makes us smarter, and it makes us see if this technology is mass produced, right? We already know the pros, where it's good, where it's not, type of deal, right? And again, for a company our size to be able to help push this technology, it's one of those questions, you know, if we don't, who's going to, type of deal, right? And, you know, so we're very excited to do it, but we also understand when we get into this world of innovation that our expectations of what the outcome is are we've gotten good at making sure that they're, I don't want to say low, but we're realistic with what we're trying to do, right? We knew that kicking this off, we weren't going to have 100 customers calling us and say, hey, can we put all our cargo on these trucks or beta testing with new technology, right? Yeah, actually, it was the exact opposite, right? We would talk to customers like, that is so cool. Do not put my shit in there. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like, awesome, good for you. I don't want to, you know, call it, you know. So those were one of the things we were like, okay, but we're showing a commitment to innovation. And through that, we're expanding, you know, our minds, we're expanding our experiences and our intelligence inside our walls. That also makes us stronger.
Interesting. Yeah. And I love the honesty there, and kind of how you're looking at it, and, you know, understanding like what the potentials are, whether they're positive or just no result at the end of the day, right? But trying something, and I think, you know, going out there and trying to figure out something that could have this positive result. And I think you said a really interesting thing there, where you said, you know, if we don't do it, like, you know, who else is going to do it, right? And maybe it's a competitor, and then it's successful for the competitor, and then you're kind of like, like we should have did that, right? So very interesting there. So now tell us too about, you know, you're in Columbus, Ohio area, as you mentioned. So tell us a little bit about kind of the location there, and how does that kind of tie into the testing in different scenarios and climates too as well, because autonomous trucking type of things have kind of been in some warmer climates. I think we've seen, but Columbus is not always like warm all year round, right?
Yeah. No, we actually, I think we had 3 seasons today.
Yeah.
So when we first started, it was focused on rural, right? That was an aggressive area to start, right? 2 semis going down the road, and as the technology evolved and partners came on, like Kratos that had some beefed up technology, we really opened it up, and ODOT has always been involved, and then Indiana got involved, so it opened up for us to now go outside state lines. So we focus on the I-70 corridor, right? If you've ever driven down the I-70 corridor, with respect to the hardworking individuals at ODOT and IDOT, you come across every type of road, construction, pothole, this, left, right, and you're subject to heavy wind, heavy rain, snow sometime, ice sometime. You're subject to all these. So you get a lot of good use cases, and it's also a high volume hub, right? Or a high volume route that connects 2 hubs, Columbus, Indiana. So there's a tremendous amount of use cases when you're also talking about how did we apply it to revenue generating routes, because it really opened up our ability to now find use cases without really trying to stretch it and say, yeah, that would make sense to put it there. And the data that we got from being able to go further distances and cross state lines, right? And also what we learned, when you get these trucks and you get new technology, you get this giant binder of stuff you can't do.
Yeah.
And then you're seamlessly supposed to test and check boxes off that, okay, it worked in that environment, right, for X amount of time. Early morning rain rained at X time, stopped raining, heavy downpour, certain temperatures. So you check these boxes of, we were driving in perfect conditions and it started doing this. And as it started, the technology didn't default. So, right. Yes, we deactivated it, but we got some use case showing that the technology was able to operate in that. So that environment, although it's, potential to that people that live outside the Midwest, it's like the most Midwest area between Ohio and Indiana possible. It actually gives you a lot of exposure to weather conditions, road types, different types of vehicles, high volume, rural areas. So the data we've been able to collect and the box that we've been able to check, it's been I would say tremendous success on getting the technology closer to the next phase.
Very interesting. Yeah. And I think that dynamic kind of versatile environment, right, certainly allows for I imagine a vast amount of data to be collected in different situations. And even like you mentioned, like the changing situations, like, it's clear out, now it's raining, or now it's very windy, right? And like, what does the system do? How does it react? Does that impact at all or not impact? And I think that's really, really good to be able to see that in that kind of environment. So very interesting there. And so if we look towards kind of the future, like how do you see this pilot program and this technology evolving over time?
I think we will see an evolution and continue to see smart trucks and trailers evolving. One of the trailers is a quote unquote smart trailer that has a bunch of sensors on it that's collecting road data, right?
Okay.
This road data can capture everything from temperature of the road to precipitation to also like vibrations of how big potholes and things were, right? I think the technology starts to push towards commercial trucks being a positive, always positive, which they're a positive participant in collecting community data, right? And sharing that, right? Example, felt the big pothole, automatically connecting to the ODOT or IDOT and letting them know, using the data from commercial trucks to improve roads and quickly see where there's issues on the road. I think that's one thing that is not being talked enough, but as these trucks and trailers get smarter and these smart highways and smart roads start to evolve, I think that's one thing that we're going to really gain a lot of value from, right? And then this, obviously, the second one is promoting safety of the truck drivers and the vehicles around them on the road, right? The single, unfortunately, anytime a semi is in any kind of accident, there's a perception that the semi must have been at fault, right? And it's unfortunate because they're the safest drivers, or they should be the safest drivers on the road, right?
Mhm.
So elevating the drivers to even be more safe, but also teaching the community about these technologies. We can't do what we need to do in our daily lives if we don't have trucks on the road,
Right.
right? So making them safer, getting community buy-in, it's all very important. And I see that technology being able to help the community buy into understanding the importance of trucks, right? Trucks are safe, right?
Mhm.
So I see that evolution, right? Kind of like what you kind of see almost saying that it starts with data sharing, and then the autonomous factors promoting safety really start to get layered in.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you have that kind of safety focus and safety mindset about it kind of underlying there. And I think it would be really interesting to see how this technology continues to evolve and how it's being utilized in the marketplace. And, so very interesting to talk to you today, Peter, and learn about just ease in general and how you kind of came to start the company, and, also learn about this autonomous pilot that you guys are running and kind of how it's going, and that innovative mindset that you have, and how you kind of go about that strategically and think about it in a practical way. So really appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me today here. If people are interested in learning more about Ease Logistics, and maybe they're interested in putting their stuff on those trucks, what's the best way to get in touch?
Our website is very, very easy to navigate, easelogistics.com. Right, we go there. We have a tremendous amount of information on technologies that we're using in the trucks, in our warehouses, and in our logistics operations. We operate 24/7. Info at Ease Logistics. If you ever need to get a hold of me, it still comes right to my phone. So please reach out if interested. And we love teaching and sharing information about it to make the community more informed. And I encourage everybody that wants to learn more or is interested in it to just take that first step and start reading about it and learning. And we'd love to be the platform that helps that happen.
All right. Fantastic. And love to hear that. And we'll definitely share all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes. So Peter, thank you once again for coming on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Enjoyed this episode? Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and for more content from the New Warehouse, find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Links to subscribe can be found in the show notes, and for everything The New Warehouse, head to thenewwarehouse.com.